गुरु ब्रह्मा गुरु विष्णु गुरु देवो महेश्वरा गुरु साक्षात परब्रह्म तस्मै श्री गुरुवे नमः. सदाशिव समारंभां शंकराचार्य मध्यमां अस्मदाचार्य पर्यन्तां वंदे गुरु परंपरा. I will spend some time today on this analogy that is used in Vedanta a lot, the pot and the clay. Just like how snake superimposes upon the rope and is used as an example to say how the Brahman, this existence, which is originally supposed to be a rope in this analogy, with the half knowledge, with the half fear of snake. You know about snake, you have fear about snake, and then with that, you see the rope in the half lit light and mistake that rope for a snake. With the proper lighting, the snake goes away, you see the rope. If you had seen the rope always, there is no trouble. You are a born jnani. You saw this world as Brahman, no issues. You will not be even born, because you have to be born to know all this, at least manifest, right? If you are a jnani, unless you are born for a particular purpose, you are not born at all. Let's dwell on that. So whatever is manifest is trying to know. Well, life is always trying to live, be alive eternally, but it cannot. It has to go through the passage of death again and again and again. In that process, it evolves invariably until it comes upon to be a human being. There it also goes through various cycles, like this half knowledge of snake, the fear of snake and all that. Finally, all analogy by the way, it finally recognizes it is the Brahman. The life recognizes that it is always alive as what? As awareness. Doesn't need to be born dead, to be born again, to seek to be alive always, strive to be continuously existent, to which purpose it procreates. What is procreation? But to replicate, to propagate, right? It is eternity. So this thing is what is the sentience the life form do, right? Even before it becomes sentient, it is a life form, because sentient, you would say, is a higher life form, right? So invariably the life is trying to be alive eternally, but death is the doorway it has to pass through. We said all that. Let's dwell on that for a minute, and then come back to this. The rope is the truth, and the snake is the superimposition, which never is there. So this existence is all Brahman, but it projects as a snake, and because of that projection as a snake, a lot of drama happens. Because you see a snake, you scream, the neighbor comes, say you're a lady, the neighbor is a young man, you may fall in love, your life may start. Who knows what are all the permutation combination we can take this into. So it's some teacher will come teach you Again, we are playing with an analogy, but the superimposition creates the drama. So strip away the analogy, this world as an existence creates a drama. Why? Because you see yourself as a restricted body, mind, being, and you want to experience everything, this and that, and this and that, and this and that Purushartha factor. Finally, you come to the Dharma and understand all that, and then seek moksha. Before that, it is Kama and Artha. So that's that. Now, so the awareness of the rope in the proper light makes the snake disappear. There was never a snake. So likewise, this existence, what we experience, is a superimposition on a Brahman that never has anything to do with this existence. And this is where we need to understand few more things. Now we are going into the second popular analogy. What is that? The clay and the pot. Just so happened that today I was discussing that with a friend who is a good sadhaka, a deep sadhaka, who strives. And so in that process, all the darshana shastras I happen to touch upon just to reacquaint. And then I came across this snake and rope details in various contents. So one other thing was from Sarvapriyananda, which, him being one of my upagurus or gurus whom I have been blessed to have a direct acquaintance. He explains that way back in 2018, I believe, in one of his classes, how this pot and the clay can be availed to understand this existence. And he takes us through beautifully. He says there is a pot, there is this world, and let's say it's the effect. There has to be a cause for this. And let's say Brahman is the cause for it. And now let us try to relate them together. Like we try to relate pot to the substance that made that pot. Everything about pot is what? There is a shape. There is a function. And because of the shape and the function, it gets a name and it becomes a pot. It holds, it's a container. So function gives it a name and there is a shape. The shape helps in making that function happen, holder. So that's that. So if that is the effect, like this existence, the world, then what is the cause? Let's say Brahman is the cause, and how do we try to relate that? This pot should have come from somewhere, and when we investigate the pot, we find that everything about this pot is clay. It's made of clay. Inside, outside, everything is clay. So that becomes the original or material cause, they call it as. Now, there are other auxiliary causes that can make this pot, and there is also helping Sahakari cause, which is, basically Upadana is a material cause, Karana, and Karya is the effect. So Upadana is the material Karana, that's the clay for the part. But the auxiliary is Nimitta, and that is the potter. And Sahakari is the wheel and all the tools he uses. So let's remove this Nimitta and Sahakari Karana, which made that pot happen, because the pot wouldn't have been made, then you also have to use water. So we'll get into the finer detail of pottery now. Let's leave all that. Let's say the pot is purely clay for time being, and it is. Let us also leave the firing factor and all that. So pot exists. It is a form and a shape only. Before this form and shape, it was only clay. And after this form and shape also, it is only clay. So the intermediate that has happened here is the pot. If you remove the form and the shape from the pot, there is only clay. There is no pot thing that made the pot. The thing, the upadana, the material cause, there is nothing of pot. Pot is getting its role only as a form and a name. And this is where in Vedanta, we need to very clearly understand, even though we may use the word illusion, it is a wrong usage. Maya, illusion and all. Maya, you use it in a bigger context, so illusion seems to help, but it is not illusion. It is mithya. It is not satya. Satya is the clay. Mithya is the intermediate. So, if we understand this mithya properly, you have understood Vedanta 80%. And if you get the Advaita reminder, or let's say 50%, and then if you get the 50% Advaita, you got it. Hope it's all coming along clearly. So, pot exists. Pot is made of clay. Pot is the effect. We presume the clay is the cause. But reality is, there is no pot other than the form and the shape. Everything else about the pot is only clay. Now, if you apply that to the world, there is world, universe, let's say it's made up of Brahman. Now, in the case of pot, you can break down the pot and see the clay. Where is the clay here? In this world, where is the Brahman? Here is where we have to take another analogy to explain this. The shadow and the image and the reflection. The reflection does not exist without the image, but at the same time, the reflection has any impact to the reflection, has no impact to the image. You can spit on the shadow or on the reflection on the mirror. The person is not affected. The material is not affected. So likewise, in Vedanta, the pot is just a superimposition on the clay. We have to now borrow the snake and the rope example. Because of the form and the shape, it is an intermediate. The clay never had pot in it all along. It remains clay always. and the pot did not come with any of its pottiness to form. It's just an intermediate, what they call it as causality lost, because you cannot find the original source of the pot. So pot did not transform into clay. If I took vegetables and made a curry, the vegetables became curry. There it's a direct transformation. If I had two parents and they brought in out one child, you can relate them and say, look, these two parents made this child, and if the two parents and a farm field, they fed this child and grew up the child, you can relate this child back to these parents. But with respect to pot and the clay, the pot, because of the potter and the nimitta karana and the sahakari karana, the wheel and the potter's stick and the fire and all that, enabled to make a shape and a form out of that clay. But the pot itself is a very intermediate thing. It is the effect in which the causality was lost. The clay was the cause which made the pot happen. But there is no pot in its source. So the pot does not have, you can't trace back from the pot back to clay other than the name and the form. I hope this is very clear. We have to again go back. Vegetables can make curry. You bring me a few potatoes, I can cut those potatoes and make them into curry. Give me an egg, I make an omelette. There I transform. Brahman does not become the Jagat. If that was the case, then it's different. No, here we have to borrow another example, the shadow effect or the mirror reflection effect and all that, to explain that part. Or just these words, the pot does not have clay in it. Pot is just a form and a function. That is why mithya is very clearly need to be understood. Mithya is intermediate. It is not satya, it is not asatya. It is very important one understand mithya not as illusion. We think it is an illusion. It's a nice way to explain things in the larger context of mithya as maya, but it is actually asatya, false. That is a better way, because the truth is always there, and the truth is the clay. Clay is always there. Hope this comes across clearly, because this is important. Arunachala Siva, Arunachala Siva, Arunachala Siva. How do I stop this now? I have to stop this.